Is it on? Okay. Hi, I don't know most of you. I'm Joel. Hi. I'm gonna read this and I'll explain in the beginning why. It's been a few years since I've spoken in public or spoken aloud or read anywhere. 3.5 years ago, I experienced a traumatic brain injury that left me in a dysautonomic disease state. If anyone knows what that is, it's called dysautonomia. Nothing talks to itself inside my body anymore. Also, tomorrow I'm beginning week 4 of a chemo treatment. So hi everybody, I'm Joel. Speaking is different now. I see my words. Sometimes they like float in front of me or they get all bunched up. I guess I can take this off. My inverted words reel a rhythm more like a jazz cadence, and I may jump around, but I will try to be cohesive, and I'll pray you take from my words what you need. I found Hot Metal Bridge on a dating app. A couple months ago, I found it on Believer. I was recovering from COVID and lonely, and I'm still single, just a PSA. So I began Zooming in on Wednesdays for prayer during Lent, then I finally got here in person on Easter. I've lived a vivid and colorful life, nearly unbelievable to me at times. There are many faces to my faith, but that phrasing feels kind of vanilla. So I steer to the language of holy troublemakers, the folks and the moments that give me spasm and trouble the waters of my heart. Angels stirred the healing waters in the account of John 5, and there are a few of these angels who stirred me, a small selection of moments, greatest hits per se, photographs from my life. I grew up a little over an hour north in Butler County down several different dirt roads. I was raised fundamentalist, mostly in a denomination called the Christian and Missionary Alliance, if anyone has heard of that. And as I grew up, I neurodivergently sought out the most Jesus-looking, Jesus-smelling folks that I could find. I would like to say that I carry pieces of them with me today. At one particular Alliance Youth Convention down here, it was at Allegheny Center Alliance, if anybody knows that church, a lady really caught my eye and ear. She was the worship leader. But what was she wearing? And beads and a hair wrap. I understand the word bohemian now, but I did not know that then. I was 15, 16, 17. This is the early 90s. So I took to my contemporary Christian magazines back home and researched this lady and her husband. They had several contemporary Christian albums that did okay. Their newest one was Independent. Why? Why did they have to put it out themselves? Well, the title track was they wrote for their friend who died of AIDS. That was not very Christian marketable in the 90s. She wouldn't stop talking about it. That lady would not righteously shut up, and I was hooked. I followed them for several years, and every time Rebecca Sparks came out on stage, she wore her Doc Marten boots and dedicated the song, I Can't Dance When You Stand on My Feet, to the church. I'm wearing their t-shirt today that I picked up from them in 1993. That is all the words they wrote to their gay friend, Field of Your Soul. Sometimes I feel like they wrote it just for me. The Christian and Missionary Alliance did get me to New York, though. I went to Nyack College, 20 minutes north of Manhattan. I could ramble lists of holy troublemakers from there and many unholy troublemakers. Bible college is a strange, formative experience. I'm grateful for my couple best friends I still have. We are the ones who questioned and smoked a lot of clove cigarettes. My mid-20s were spent in Philadelphia at a church called Circle of Hope. This is where I learned church. They taught me Jesus and church and community. My son was born there, but also my ex-wife and I divorced there. When the rumors of my questionable sexuality flew about the congregation, the leader's response was, he's ours. Some members wanted me disciplined. The pastor was more concerned if I was eating. The leaders suggested other churches if naysayers wanted to see someone disciplined. This was a congregation full of artists and activists, unafraid of civil disobedience when necessary. We were young and many not properly medicated. One night in 1999, I was sleeping out on a bridge in North Philly with a buddy. because a city sidewalk ordinance had went through, and it was a law essentially making it illegal to arrest, or making it legal to arrest a homeless person just for sleeping on the street. Well, we as a church, Circle of Hope, along with the Simple Way, took to the streets and we slept everywhere. Every night we littered the streets with our mostly white bodies trying to get arrested. This particular night, however, it was exciting because my church buddy and I hadn't had a whole lot of one-on-one time together. There was always tons of people, and I'm really much better one-on-one. And this guy had just met Mother Teresa. I could not share enough air with this guy. We talked long into the night, under our blankets, on that bridge. It was late February. A guy came up and offered us food or help, and it was nice at first. We refused, but thanked him. It was a genuine offer of assistance. Then, the guy pulled off his hat so we could see his freshly shaved head. Anything for my white brothers, he said as he walked away. Excuse me. We sat speechless. Then we talked. And I don't know if this account made it into any of the books, but on that bridge that night, Shane Claiborne taught me what it is to be an ordinary radical. We said no to a skinhead, and we used our privilege to get the ACLU to sue the city of Philadelphia and repeal an unholy ordinance. Could somebody grab me my drink, please? I drink a lot of salt water. I know it's weird, but it keeps me alive. Another photograph I cannot mention Philadelphia without giving a shout out is to the lady that taught me that just because I'm white, I'm not always right. Jackie, you're late for work. You try being a slave for 400 years and see if 10 minutes really matters to you, white boy. Jacqueline Thompson and I worked at a Whole Foods side by side for a few years at the nutrition and makeup counter. We became close. She taught me decentering before the word had the race implication we understand today. We shared joys and losses. She kept me grounded post-divorce. She patiently walked me out of my unknown racism. And like me, she was Holy Ghost haunted. She couldn't escape Christians. We laughed about that. And like me, she was an abuse survivor. She loved my daughter Phoebe, who was 2 and 3 then. They talked like old friends. I would drop Phoebe off with her different times at her house, and they just talked over tea, both of them. It was a sight. One Christmas, Jackie's son got her a car. Miss Jackie was thrilled. She retold the story over and over. Her son gave her an old beat-up 60s Volkswagen Beetle on Christmas morning before they left for the movies, which she explained they started to do as a family during the difficult years. She was thrilled just to have a car. When the movie was over, her car was not in the parking lot. Now, if anyone has been to the Regal Cinema down by the water in Philly, a stolen vehicle is not a big surprise. But the parking lot is choppy. The cinema kind of sits in the middle of it. Her son took her around back to find her 2001 brand new Volkswagen Beetle. Biggest ribbon you could imagine. Her son just played her. That week, she picked us all up and we went for a spin. I've never seen a woman so happy. Years ago, they had some money and success, then nothing, and poverty. This was the biggest thing this lady's son had ever been able to do at this point, and I know he's done more since. It was a true joy to have known and learned from Miss Jacqueline Thompson and from her son, Amir Thompson, which many of you know as Questlove from The Tonight Show. I will skip the next two. I moved to New York and I wrote a lot. Kids at my church in the early 2000s, we wanted to be the Burnside Writers Group of New York, if anyone knows what that was in Portland. My writers group published a few things and had several readings and artist events. For a couple years, we even offered 2 weekly workshops in the city. We met for a while in the basement of the Empire State Building. 2 weeks in a row, a girl came. She was in town. She was new. And the rumor was she had a book contract. When we broke off into groups to workshop material, I made sure to get her in my group because I was contractless. And so we introduced. She wanted to be more comfortable with me than she was. a gay married father of two, a gay family man, a devout Christian. It did not compute, and she wanted to be okay. Her conflict was all over her face. God bless her. So we talked about her. Her contract was insane. My words haunt me. Rachel, you're barely a woman. My dad would say that you're still wet behind the ears. I think it's arrogant to think that a book about a year of biblical womanhood means anything coming from someone so young and inexperienced. Many of you know that was a bestseller. She had several of them. Rachel Held Evans became a beloved voice of many of us, gently contemplating her own faith, deconstruction, and rebuilding. Rest in peace. I've had so many moments, photographs. What I would like to say is honoring a passing satellite, and I will wrap up with this last moment in a humble effort to not name drop or validate the story through celebrity adjacency. The last trouble-stirring account does not have names. 2002, summer tour with a Christian folk singer. Kirby's Beer Store, Wichita, Kansas. It's where Rich Mullins drank. If anyone knows the artist Rich Mullins, the old Christian artist who's passed, it's where he drank. I wanted to know this. Where did this man of God drink? So setting up for the show, a girl approached me. In my shaky memory, she looked like Raven from the Teen Titans. Dyed black hair, gothish makeup, and we chatted, and either she bought a t-shirt or a CD or something, and I folded my hands to thank her, and instead of thank you, the words that came out of my mouth were, blessed be. She lit up. Are you pagan? Nah, I'm into Jesus, but differently. I don't think it matters the words or pronouns we use to thank our deities. She just likes to be thanked. The girl offered to buy me a drink. Her girlfriend was on the way. She assumed me gay. That came up. That was the summer Love in Action from Tennessee was actively recruiting me. And my parents were already making payments for me to go inpatient for conversion therapy. I was torn. I certainly wasn't abandoning my faith. And Love in Action was enticing, though, because I was really down and out. They promised miracles. They promised acceptance. And the tour I was on with an artist was not making any money. And honestly, he was an alcoholic. Then the Raven goth girl tells me I need to meet her other friend who's on his way. And it was a special night. When her friend arrived, he had a large military duffel bag with him. He had come directly to Kirby's Beer Store after he left for the last time the Wichita Residential Gay Conversion Inpatient Program. He had fallen in love. He was meeting his boyfriend that night there at the beer store to run away together. He was about 30, his boyfriend slightly older. His boyfriend came directly from work. It was his last day, and he resigned without notice. He was the counselor at the Gay Conversion Center. And that was the night that they were to go off together. And they did. They had an RV trailer parked at a koi fish pond just outside of town. After the show, the guys asked where we were off to next, and this happened to be a wild card night on the road. Maybe a Super 8, maybe a Motel 6, or camp, sleeping in the van. That's what you do on the road sometimes. So they offered us to pitch our tent at the koi fish pond they were using as base camp. It was the most beautiful summer night, under the stars, with the koi. We shed our clothes and jumped in the pond as soon as we got there, all four of us. I remember falling under the water a little drunkenly, seeing the stars through the orange fishes above me. And I knew if this was my last moment on earth, if that was just my last breath, it was beautiful. We were all in the same water. And that guy who was the patient at the rehab actually gave me a bead that night that I carry with me. I have this in my little box at home, and he's like, you hang on to this. I mean, that's been 20 some years, but I do. Because it was a moment in time. It was true love in action, and I got to be part of it. There's these photographs, these accounts, and these people. They've formed and shaped my faith. I sit back and I look at my 46 years. I've nearly died several times the last couple, and I wake up drenched. I wake up dehydrated, thirsty. I'm hot and cold at the same time most of the time. I don't want to wake my roommate, and I pray the Lord's Prayer, and sometimes it feels empty. But I have these moments, and I have these photographs, per se. I have a hug from the arms of a Wolverine, which is a whole other story, and a bead, and a t-shirt, and the Tonight Show. And after all of this, I still say how rare and beautiful it is to even exist. Hi, I'm Joel.